Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. As JP Satelli was speaking on our program about tech surveillance, the power plays with tech surveillance, creating a panopticon of sorts with the eugenics numbers and all that. Governor Gavin Newsom of California showed up on CNBC, and he said that his plan for reopening the state is highly dependent on the capacity to test widely for the virus and to conduct contact tracing, whereby personnel identify and track people who come in contact with an infected individual. And at tech companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, Zuckerberg, I know, has been doing a lot of support. Mark Zuckerberg has been doing a lot of support for the open access of appropriate data anonymously. It's all anonymous. It's basically the Snitch Society, but done with your phone. Done with, Apple, Google, they're involved. It's going to basically help them, according to Newsom, giving them a platform to supplement or support the efforts of what are called individual tracers. And what it is, tracers are going to be among us. They're going to be like an army. You're probably going to be hired to walk around with a phone that will alert people that are in the crowd that may have coronavirus. Last week, Apple and Google announced a partnership in which both companies would work together to provide tools that will help track the spread of coronavirus. And so what they're offering is, the ability for app makers to use Bluetooth to let people know when they've come in contact with someone who's been diagnosed with coronavirus. And so they call it contact tracing. Now, if you have a phone and you cross paths with someone who ends up testing positive for COVID-19, you may be alerted that you've come in contact with someone, and to get to your doctor's office. They're calling upon the private sector, and that's what he was worried about, what JP was talking about, the private sector, the privatizing of this type of technology to follow possible disease individuals with coronavirus. They call it syndromic surveillance. Syndromic surveillance, a technique that can be used to track pandemics. And so these tech companies are in this position now. They've had this technology. And this is where we worry about 5G, okay? 5G, everybody wants to scare you about how 5G created COVID-19. No, 5G is going to be used to track those with COVID-19. And so people in the United States who own a phone where apps can be installed will have to get it, and the government will fund this syndromic surveillance, and Google and other groups will be behind the syndromic surveillance. What Google's saying is they're saying, well, we're not going to collect identifiable information or user location data, but we will alert you if you're around someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Can you imagine if they would have had this technology when people had HIV and AIDS? Can you imagine this? Can you imagine? People would go nuts and say, what are you doing? This is prejudice. Think about it. If AIDS and HIV happened now, it was new, and it was something that we're very concerned about. You would be having this data, this form of tracking, and anyone who is exposed to HIV or has been diagnosed with HIV would it would raise the alarms. So they're saying, well, the data is only going to be used for contact tracing, and it's only going to be used for the public health authority. That's what Google said. Do you trust that? Once again, it goes back to here we are in dystopia. It's not enough that President Trump has been pushing for the testing and all this other stuff. But now we have to understand that we have reporters on MSNBC like Stephanie Ruhle saying that there should be a shadow government that should be in play. And so you have tech companies that want to track you. You have a panopticon that's being constructed to breed eugenics prejudice, like in Gattaca or something else. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's dehumanizing. It really is. You got Bill Gates and Dr. Strangeglove that are looking for a piece of the action as they stand to benefit from the fear porn they generate with regards to the virus and whether or not they have a vaccine. I mean, look, it's obvious we don't need a president like Trump in place in order to advance this depraved totalitarian agenda. It's already going on, even with Trump as president. And anyone, if they're paying attention, knows intense suspicion of the U.S. government is the only sane position that anyone can possibly have. And the error is in assuming that there is no mechanism in place to ensure the same agendas carry forward from one president administration to another president administration. I laugh at people who say to me, well, you know, if Hillary Clinton were president, none of this would have happened. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Even with Biden as president, this is going to happen. I mean, it's obvious that this has been in the planning for a long time. It's obvious to me, and I hope it's obvious to you. Let's go to Jack in California. Hi, Jack. You're on Ground Zero.
The resistance is futile. I tell you, Clyde, this is very interesting what your guest brought up. He drew the distinction between private corporations and the government. And a lot of people don't understand that the Constitution puts limits on the government. And most of those limits don't apply to private corporations. When you guys that use the internet and you contract with people like Facebook, I know you don't read the contract, but when you click onto it, that you agree to it, trust me, you're giving away a lot of your constitutional rights. But what we're dealing with here today is clearly a case of the government's taking away your rights. And I'm talking about at the level of the city mayor, the county board of supervisors, and the governors. Now, Trump's been very clever. He has only listed guidelines that are voluntary. He hasn't abridged any of your rights. And I think it was Tucker Carlson last night was interviewing a governor, and he asked him, by what authority do you circumvent the Bill of Rights? And now, I didn't actually see this. I heard about it. And the answer was, well, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. So what I thought would be interesting is just to make a point is the Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. I want everybody to listen very closely to this because this makes it very clear. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Well, they violated all of that. The mayors, the supervisors, the governor. And in my opinion, these states should be liberated, and these government officials should be arrested.
What do you think about what Stephanie Ruhle said about the possibility of a shadow government being organized to take down Trump?
Well, I can tell you this, that President Lincoln and President Wilson would have her immediately arrested for sedition. So, Clyde, tell me, what does a shadow SWAT team look like?
Militarized police force, quite possibly what we call a paid agent or a paid guerrilla to enforce the law? Or
yeah, well, they're usually special ops. It would be a special police force, and what would be is the objective? Probably to take out the President of the United States.
One of the things that I wanted to point out, since you were pointing out some constitutional knowledge, I want to revisit Amendment 10. There's that number again, 10.
Right?
Well, yeah. The powers not delegated. Okay, this is where the governors say that they have their power from the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution or prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively. And what people forget is, or to the people. In other words, the states and the governors of the states have the right to do whatever they want if they want to. The president, of course, says, well, I have more power over them. But no, the states can do this. The governors of the states can do this. But what they forget to add to that 10th Amendment is the people. The people also make the decision. So if the governors are making decisions that the people do not agree with, the people will rebel. The people will rise up. And that is what I'm thinking of right now, because the idea of tracking people, you realize, Jack, that they're going to force you to get a cell phone. They're going to force you to get a cell phone now. You know that, right?
Well, I know that they're going to use contact tracing to enhance the surveillance state. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, they want GPS on all these phones so they can track what you're doing and who you're associating with.
So they'll probably give you a phone, and you're going to have to break your Luddite attitude and get yourself a phone and come to the real world like me. Join the cult.
Right. Well, there's something else I want to say. Can you hold me over?
Yeah, I'll hold you for just this once, but don't make it a habit of it, okay?
All right, buddy.
Hang on, we'll be right with you. Jack's coming back. We'll get with Jack what he has to say. 877-733-1011. It's 877-733-1011. We'll be back. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. We're holding Jack over for just a little bit. Jack, what was it you wanted to say?
Okay, so I think it's important at this time in our history that we be clear on something. The Constitution doesn't recognize a state of emergency. The Constitution recognizes nothing that abrogates your rights. So what I read you earlier from the 14th Amendment, Section 1, that's operative.
Can you read that again? Can you read that again, if you can?
From the 14th Amendment?
Yes, please. Read that again.
All right.
Because I want people to hear what you read, so it's very important and impactful that they hear what you have to say about the 14th Amendment.
Right, and this is why the mayors, the county supervisors, and the governors that have taken your rights need to be arrested. And this is, you can't be any clearer than this. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So the reason why I want you to hold me over was because you brought up the 10th Amendment, and you swerved into something that's the most overlooked amendment, and that's the 9th Amendment. It says, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. What that means is your Bill of Rights doesn't list all of your rights. You have a ton of other rights. You have a right to go to work. You have a right to go to the park. You have a right to go to the beach. They cannot deprive you of these rights. You also have a right to stay home if you're afraid of the virus. But what I'm telling you is, this is what we're living under right now is worse than Nazi Germany. I can't think of anything worse. These bureaucrats are even telling the doctors what are essential and non-essential medical procedures. And they're not doctors, they're bureaucrats.
I know. In fact, I was hearing something the other day that in some areas they're finally allowing for elective surgeries to start again, which, is something that I feel is very important, especially in my family, because my wife needs some surgeries to be done. And we put them all on hold because of COVID-19, and she has been suffering because of it. And it's not good. It's not good for the family. It's not good for her. It's not good for our emotional well-being. It's not good for her emotional well-being. And every day I wake up wondering, when is this going to lift so my wife can get her elective surgeries so we can get them out of the way And for all those people that are suffering from cancers, all those people that are not getting their treatments because of COVID-19, all of the people that need surgeries are afraid to go to the doctor because they're afraid they're going to contract it. These are the things that a lot of people don't think of. They think, oh, well, I'm fine, keep me in. Well, there are a lot of people that are suffering from other things, even heart problems. If they decide they don't want to, revive them, they won't revive them. It's really scary what we're in the middle of right now. Medically, it's scary that they want to track people. This is like you say, this is like Nazi Germany. It's even worse. I mean, it's.
No, let me put it in perspective. The most dangerous thing you do in life with the most liability is drive a car. We take that chance all the time. As free people, you take that risk. We go to work all the time thinking, well, I could get the flu, but that's not going to keep me home. Okay? So, look, there's a darker agenda to all of this. There's a darker agenda, and part of it is this. You're going to see that the Democratic governors are going to resist reopening their states to business because they want to wreck this economy, and they want to keep it wrecked up and until the election. A lot of this is political now. And
it is.
That Trump doesn't get reelected. Now, look, I fully support what Trump said about liberating these states, okay? And what I would like to see the people do is to continue the resistance. And if you want to go to work and open your business, if you want to go to the beach, do it. That's your right. And this is how you resist. It's called civil disobedience. And I cut my eye teeth on this when I was a resistor to the war in Vietnam. A horrible tragedy in our history. And I'm proud that I was an anti-war protester back in those days. We need to regenerate that kind of a protest effort because our Constitution is at stake. Our way of life is at stake.
I'm already feeling it now, Jack. I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We'll be back.
Where is my mind?